I want you to start by picturing a map in your mind.
A physical map.
Yeah, exactly. A classic, highly detailed cartographic representation of London. You know the one.
The winding serpentine curve of the River Thames.
Right. The sprawling networks of streets, the bridges connecting the north and south banks. It is a geographical layout you probably recognize instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But in this thought experiment, I want you to take that map and physically flip it over.
Which normally would just be blank parchment.
Exactly. But here, you aren't met with the blank back of a page. You are looking at another London entirely.
A completely different world occupying the exact same space.
Yes. The geography is roughly identical. The river is there, the streets are there, the topography matches, but the civilization built upon it is fundamentally different.
It even carries a different scent.
It operates on an entirely different physical and political frequency. And then flip the map a third time.
And the city reveals this harsh, starving, violently aggressive iteration of itself.
Right. And flip it one final time, and you are staring at nothing but a charred, sealed, apocalyptic ruin.
Just absolute devastation.
You are looking at 4 distinct, parallel versions of the exact same city, layered directly on top of each other, occupying the exact same dimensional space, but separated by invisible, impenetrable cosmic walls.
The visual of those overlapping, translucent maps, it really perfectly encapsulates the architectural brilliance of the multiverse we are exploring today.
It's incredible world building.
It really is. As we jump into today's deep dive, our focus is A Darker Shade of Magic, which is Shades of Magic Book 1 by V E Schwab.
And the backdrop shifting behind me right now to reflect these antique illuminated maps and glowing elemental runes, it's a reminder that this is not your standard fantasy adventure.
No, not at all. It's a deeply complex sociological study.
It really is. Our mission today is to unpack all of that. We are dissecting the complex characters, the profound thematic questions of power, balance, and consequence.
Because beneath the surface level mechanics of, blood magic and parallel universe hopping, Schwab has constructed this really rigorous exploration of resource scarcity.
And systemic collapse.
Exactly. And the inherently corrupting nature of absolute power. These 4 Londons serve as a profound allegory for how different civilizations manage, exploit, or harmonize with the foundational resources of their environment.
Okay, let's unpack this structural foundation. Because understanding the distinct philosophies of these 4 Londons, it's essential for decoding the behavior of everyone who operates within them.
You really can't understand the characters without understanding their geography.
Right. So since we are familiar with the overarching layout, let's bypass the basic tour and really analyze what Schwab is saying with these environments, starting with the reality that mirrors our own history.
Great London.
Great London. The timeline aligns roughly with the reign of King George III, and in this reality, magic is practically extinct.
It's gone.
It's gone. But the fascinating element here isn't just the absence of magic. It's the cognitive dissonance of the population.
Yeah, they are living in the decaying ruins of a magical ecosystem.
But the vast majority of them flat out deny it ever existed.
Which is such a human response to loss.
It really is. But then you have the eccentric few, the patrons of shadowy pubs like the Stone's Throw or the Barren Tide.
They can't cast spells or anything.
No, but they can still physically smell the magic. They sense its ghostly echoes.
Grey London represents a civilization suffering from profound generational amnesia. The inhabitants are experiencing this bone-deep sense of loss for something they lack the vocabulary to even define.
It's tragic, honestly.
It is. Schwab uses this setting to explore the psychological toll of a depleted world. And the fact that King George III is descending into madness in this specific reality is a masterful thematic touch.
Oh, absolutely. The ruling head of the state is losing his grip on reason in a world that has been entirely drained of its mystical vitality.
Grey London is a society stumbling in the dark, entirely ignorant of the fire that used to warm it. They treat the lingering scent of smoke as a collective hallucination.
Okay, that fire analogy is perfect. Keep that in mind because that brings us to the stark, almost blinding contrast of Red London.
Kell's home.
Kell's home. This is the prosperous, vibrant empire where the River Thames actually runs a shimmering, healthy crimson.
On the surface, Red London presents itself as an absolute utopia.
Completely. The society is built entirely around their guiding philosophy. Prist er essen, essen trit prist.
Power and balance, balance and power.
Exactly. They revere magic. They integrate it into their daily lives with respect and caution. But if we scratch just a little bit beneath that polished utopian veneer, the dynamics of Red London reveal a significant degree of institutional hypocrisy.
Oh, massive hypocrisy. And that hypocrisy is central to understanding their political structure.
Right. The royal family of Red London preaches this mantra of balance and equal partnership with magic. They present themselves as the enlightened stewards of this natural resource.
However, their actions on a geopolitical level tell a totally different story.
Completely different.
They effectively hoard the most potent manifestations of magic, specifically the Antari.
Keeping them on a gilded leash to maintain their own supreme authority.
Exactly. If we view Red London through an environmental or economic lens, they are a society that has achieved sustainability, but only for the elite class.
They've monopolized the balance.
Right. They respect the magic, yes, but they also strictly regulate who is allowed to access its highest tiers. This ensures the reigning monarchy is never genuinely threatened by the general populace.
And that hoarding of power stands in terrifying opposition to our third reality.
White London.
White London. This place is brutal. It's a pale, starving world currently ruled by the sadistic twins, Athos and Astrid Dane.
Their guiding philosophy completely discards the concept of balance.
For them, it is purely power and dominance.
They view magic not as a partner but as a beast, something to be conquered, enslaved, and continuously extracted.
And because they fight the magic actively fights back.
It retreats.
It retreats. It burrows deep into the earth, forcing the citizens to physically claw at the surface. They are starving and desperate, trying to drag the power out by force.
White London is a textbook, catastrophic manifestation of the tragedy of the commons.
Accelerated by aggressive, toxic extraction.
Yes. The society is built on the continuous, violent exploitation of a natural resource that is actively defending itself.
And the physical toll this takes on the inhabitants is visceral. It's horrifying.
Citizens mutilate themselves. They carve brands and scars into their own flesh in these frantic attempts to forcibly bind what little magic they can capture.
This isn't just a grim aesthetic choice by the author.
Not at all. It is a direct parallel to historical and modern forms of aggressive colonialism and resource extraction.
The Dane twins' cruelty is merely a macro reflection of their entire paradigm.
They are slowly suffocating their own world because they have alienated and weaponized the very thing required to sustain it.
Okay, going back to our fire analogy. Gray London forgot fire exists. Red London uses it to warm their homes safely, even if they hoard the firewood. White London tries to put the fire on a leash and gets burned.
Which brings us to the world that let the fire burn the whole house down.
Black London. If White London is the slow suffocation of a world, Black London is the violent apocalyptic end state.
The ultimate cautionary tale.
A world that fell centuries ago. The inhabitants didn't just use magic, and they didn't try to dominate it, they surrendered to it.
They let it into their minds and bodies until it consumed them entirely.
Burning through the population like dry kindling, the city fell, and the doors between the universes were forcibly sealed. Today, it is treated as a ghost story, a myth to frighten children.
The conceptualization of Black London functions perfectly as an allegory for total systemic collapse through overconsumption and the complete loss of human agency.
The inhabitants essentially became mere conduits.
Right, conduits for the raw, unbridled will of the resource they coveted.
And the sealing of the doors wasn't just a political maneuver.
No, it was the establishment of a multiversal nuclear quarantine zone.
Wow, that's exactly what it is.
The other three Londons only continued to exist in their current flawed states because they completely severed themselves from the apocalyptic ground zero.
The lingering dread of Black London is the invisible gravity that dictates the foreign policy of every other surviving universe.
And we see that gravity exerting its force most heavily on the singular individuals capable of actually navigating these sealed borders.
Kell.
Yes, Kell is our primary lens into this multiversal architecture.
As one of only 2 living Antari blood magicians capable of opening doors between the worlds, Kell is a geopolitical anomaly.
He is the adopted prince of Red London,
raised alongside the true heir, Prince Rai. But Kell's existence is defined by profound duality and isolation.
And Schwab visualizes this immediately through his physical appearance.
The eye.
The eye. Kell has one normal, crisp blue eye and one eye that is entirely solidly black.
The iris, the sclera, edge to edge, just the color of spilled ink.
The Antari mark is a brilliant physical manifestation of being intrinsically bound to a primal force. That black eye instantly terrifies the inhabitants of magic-starved worlds like Grey London.
It marks him as fundamentally other.
But the mechanics of Antari magic are what truly separate Kell from the rest of the magical populace. Antari magic responds exclusively to blood.
Blood represents the ultimate literal manifestation of life and vitality. It is the raw artery of power.
If red blood is balance, black blood is chaos.
Right. And for Kell, magic is not a mental exercise or a recited incantation. It requires a physical sacrifice, an opening of the veins,
He doesn't just command magic, he speaks to it.
as if it were a living thing, a friend.
He feels it humming in his skull. It is a deeply intimate, almost parasitic symbiosis.
And that symbiosis isolates him entirely. Think about it. He is the bridge between worlds, which means he belongs to all of them, and therefore he belongs to none of them.
The irony is palpable.
It is. Officially, he acts as a highly classified royal messenger for Red London, a magical diplomat.
But
Unofficially, Kell engages in a deeply dangerous, highly illegal hobby. He is a smuggler.
which is such a fascinating character flaw.
Every time he crosses a threshold, he takes a small piece of one world and hides it away to trade or keep in another. He uses his blood to create doors, carrying these little trinkets across worlds.
And to facilitate this, he utilizes an incredible multi-sided coat.
I love the
Oh,
coat.
it's so good. He turns it inside out repeatedly, revealing different aesthetics for different worlds.
An elegant black jacket with silver buttons for Red London.
A drab side for gray London.
Right. The coat is far more than a clever magical artifact.
It is a profound psychological metaphor
For extreme compartmentalization.
and code switching. Kell lacks a singular, rooted identity, so he must constantly change his outward skin to survive and blend into the varying expectations of the realities he occupies.
His smuggling habit, when viewed through this lens of identity, makes perfect sense.
He is a treasured son of the royal family, yes, but he is fundamentally a weapon of the state.
He is a highly valued asset kept in a gilded cage.
Smuggling is his micro-rebellion. It stems from a desperate need to feel ownership over his life.
It is a dangerous grab for autonomy, an attempt to carve out a secret life that belongs entirely to him, totally outside the jurisdiction of the crown.
And that search for identity is further complicated by the runic scar on his arm.
Oh, the scar. A mark that literally translates to memory, but was utilized for the exact opposite purpose.
Kell's memory of his life before the royal family took him in just 5 years ago was entirely intentionally erased by a forbidden spell.
He has no knowledge of his origins, his parents, how his eye turned black. He's a prince walking around with a massive engineered void where his foundational history should be.
The erasure of Kell's memory introduces a deeply unsettling implication about his relationship with the Red London monarchy.
Really makes you wonder.
It does. Did he sacrifice his memories willingly to escape a trauma, or were they forcibly stripped from him?
Was he genuinely saved by a benevolent royal family? Or was he collected because an Antari is the most valuable tactical asset in existence?
This blank history forces Kell to constantly question whether any aspect of his personality is truly his own, or if he is simply a constructed persona designed to perfectly serve the Empire.
And that rigid, burdened, heavily compartmentalized existence demands a catalyst. Kell's carefully managed life requires a completely unpredictable force to shatter it.
Enter the Shadow Thief.
Delilah Bard.
Yeah.
I love introducing Lila. She is a cross-dressing thief from the mundane, magic-depleted streets of Grey London.
She survives through pure aggression, stealing whatever she needs, dreaming of pirate ships and stranger worlds.
She is the absolute antithesis of Kell's burden nobility.
Lila is defined by a staggering, almost weaponized audacity.
In an environment that systematically grinds down the vulnerable, she has aggressively fashioned herself into a predator.
She embraces her self-appointed title, the Shadow Thief. She relishes her wanted posters.
Her life motto essentially boils down to, there is no such thing as too many knives.
Which is such a fun contrast to Kell. He has absolute power, but is trapped by duty and fear of his own potential.
Lila has zero magical power, at least initially, but possesses absolute unshakable audacity and free will.
The dynamic between them is crystallized the moment they meet.
It's a great meet cute, or meet theft.
It isn't a grand, fated collision. It is a petty crime in a dirty, gray London alleyway.
Lila expertly picks Kell's pocket, slipping away into the night.
But she unknowingly steals a highly volatile, intensely dangerous artifact.
A black stone from Black London. In the process, she leaves behind her kerchief, and Kell, needing a token to track her, uses his blood on the fabric to create a door.
That opens directly into the wall of her dilapidated boarding house room.
He steps through solid wood and stone, expecting to terrify a mundane thief into immediate submission.
What's fascinating here is Lila's reaction to this impossible, terrifying intrusion. It's a masterclass in character definition.
Most citizens of Grey London would be paralyzed by the sight of Kell stepping through a wall.
Let alone the visceral terror of his solid black eye.
But Lila's immediate response: she holds a knife flush against his throat and disarms him before he can even reach for the stolen artifact.
Her absolute refusal to be intimidated by his power completely disrupts the established hierarchy of this multiverse.
She views his magic not as a horror to be fled, but as the validation of every restless, ambitious urge she has ever felt.
She has spent her life searching for something more, and Kell is the living proof that the impossible exists.
She simply refuses to be a victim of circumstances.
And the circumstances they find themselves in are, frankly, apocalyptic.
Yes, because we must analyze the artifact Lila stole. It is a piece of Black London, a smooth, dark stone carved with the rune for Antari, the word for magic itself.
But this isn't ambient, helpful magic.
No, this stone is alive with dead, corrupt power. It whispers to the person holding it.
It grants reality-bending witches, but it does not run on external energy.
It feeds directly on the life force of the user. It is a predatory parasite made of pure power.
Magic isn't just a tool in Schwab's universe. It has agency. The Black Stone functions as a terrifying allegory for late-stage addiction or parasitic consumption.
It offers infinite, intoxicating capability, but the immediate cost is the hollowing out of the host's soul.
When Lila briefly possesses it, she describes a sudden, bone-deep starvation, a terrifying emptiness that threatens to consume her entirely.
The stone is a surviving fragment of the exact contagion that caused the systemic collapse of an entire universe, and now it is loose in the surviving world.
Naturally, the villains of our story are desperate to acquire it.
Athos and Astrid Dane of White London. Their entire society is built on the philosophy of dominance. They genuinely believe their willpower is absolute enough to enslave this contagion and utilize its infinite power to conquer both Red and Grey London.
And to achieve this, they deploy Holland.
The only other living Antari.
Holland's existence is one of the darkest, most tragic elements of Schwab's world building.
He is the ultimate realization of Kell's deepest unspoken fears.
Holland is an Antari from White London, but he is entirely subjugated. The Danes have utilized agonizing, complex spells to etch control runes directly into his flesh.
He is a slave, a living weapon stripped of all bodily economy.
When Kell looks at Holland, he sees the horrific, logical conclusion of his own existence if the Red London monarchy ever decided to stop asking for his service and started demanding it.
Holland's absolute lack of free will further contextualizes Kell's desperate clinging to his minor rebellions and smuggling.
Holland is sent to hunt Kell and retrieve the stone, and the resulting pursuit demonstrates the localized horror of this dark magic.
We see this vividly when Kell and Lila return to the Red London shop of a smuggler named Fletcher.
Where Kell briefly hid the artifact.
Right. They don't just find Fletcher murdered, the shop itself has been violated.
The magic of the stone acted as a beacon, drawing darkness to it, resulting in a brutal death that sucked the warmth and life out of the surrounding environment.
Leaving this lingering, hollow emptiness. Fletcher's death proves that the Black Stone preys on the ambitious, like the Danes, by amplifying their hubris, and it casually consumes the weak-willed who simply get in its way.
The violence surrounding the stone elevates the stakes from a geopolitical abstraction to an immediate visceral contagion.
It forces Kell to confront the reality that his smuggling, his desperate grab for control, has directly introduced an apocalyptic threat into his home.
This realization fundamentally shifts his priorities. The overarching conflict ceases to be about maintaining the political balance of the empires.
It becomes fiercely, agonizingly personal. And that personal vulnerability centers entirely on Kell's adoptive brother, Prince Rye.
To understand the emotional core of this narrative, we have to look closely at Rye.
On the surface, he plays the role of the spoiled, flirtatious royal heir perfectly. He avoids his magical studies, preferring to coast on his charm.
But underneath that carefully maintained facade is a staggering, almost reckless capacity for empathy.
Rye isn't just a spoiled prince. This empathy is beautifully, tragically illustrated through his handling of a rebel group called the Shadows. This was a faction in Red London that correctly identified the hypocrisy we discussed earlier, the royal family hoarding magic while ignoring the populace.
They kidnapped Prince Rye, intending to execute him to make a political statement. Yet,
Hmm.
upon his rescue, Rai utilized his royal authority to issue a blanket pardon for every single member of the group.
He genuinely believed that showing absolute mercy would break the cycle of violence. He understood their suffering and believed that forgiveness would balance out their aggression.
But here is where Schwab delivers a devastating character insight. When Layla learns about this and expresses disbelief that Rai would let his would-be murderers walk free, Kell quietly confesses the truth. I made sure they couldn't.
That admission completely recontextualizes the dynamic between the two brothers.
Rai provided the public, benevolent pardon, operating on the idealistic principle of balance.
He is allowed the luxury of idealism because Kell acts as his violent, pragmatic shadow. Kell secretly tracked down every pardoned rebel and permanently crippled them.
He ensured they could never physically threaten Rai again.
Kell allows Rai to maintain his pure, naive empathy, while Kell absorbs the moral corruption of doing what he believes is necessary to protect the crown prince.
Kell values Rai's innocence far more than he values his own soul.
This intense, trauma-bonded codependency is exactly what the villains exploit to devastating effect.
Queen Astrid of White London realizes she cannot easily defeat Kell in a straightforward, magical confrontation.
So she utilizes a highly complex possession charm, fueled by Holland's Antari blood, to bypass Kell's defenses entirely.
She strikes at his single vulnerability.
She reaches across the multiversal boundaries and hijacks Prince Rai's body remotely.
The violation of bodily autonomy here is horrifying. Astrid doesn't just use Rai as a hostage. She turns him into a puppet, forcing him to physically attack Kell.
She traps Kell in an impossible psychological torture chamber. Kell cannot unleash his full power to defend himself, because doing so would mean murdering his own brother.
He is forced to absorb the attacks, prioritizing Rai's physical vessel over his own survival.
The confrontation shatters their world. The possession is eventually broken, but Rai is left bleeding out, mortally wounded.
With a dark magical brand seared over his heart.
He is dying, and conventional Red London healing magic is utterly useless against the corruption of White London's spellcraft.
Faced with the immediate, irreversible loss of the only person he genuinely loves, Kell shatters every boundary and philosophical rule he has ever been taught.
He performs an impossible, forbidden piece of magic, a soul seal.
This is not a standard spell that can be woven and eventually unraveled. It is a permanent foundational alteration of reality.
Kell takes the corrupt black stone and channels its terrifying reality-bending power. He places his hand over Rai's dying heart and binds Rai's fading life force directly to his own robust Antari vitality.
A matching concentric circle mark appears on Kell's chest.
The implications of this act are staggering.
Kell, the man whose entire internal conflict has revolved around a desperate need for personal autonomy and freedom, voluntarily and permanently shackles his very existence to the crown prince.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is an extreme emotional and physical tether.
As long as Kell survives, Rai survives. If Kell's heart stops, Rai dies instantly.
You can't just be careful for yourself anymore. Every risk Kell takes moving forward, every physical injury he sustains, every dangerous multiversal crossing he attempts, now directly threatens the life of the future King of Red London.
He has saved his brother, but he has committed an act of profound hubris.
He used the necrotic, corrupt magic of Black London to defy the natural order of death.
And while he has stabilized Rai, the source of the corruption, the Dane twins, and their possession of the dark magic remains an active, apocalyptic threat.
Kell has to eliminate the source. He has to travel to the brutal, pale courtyard of White London, confront King Athos and Queen Astrid, and find a way to sever the Blackstone's connection to the living worlds.
And Delilah Bard, operating on pure Grey London grit, completely refuses to be left behind.
Kell attempts to dismiss her, stating she is too much flesh and blood and too little power to survive a clash of magical titans.
And Leela's response is the thesis statement of her character. She essentially points out that while Astrid Dane might be composed of immense magic and malice, she is still housed in a physical body.
And bodies are not bulletproof.
The ensuing climax is a brilliant philosophical clash.
Kell faces King Athos in a brutal war of raw, chaotic power, dodging obsidian knives forged from corrupted smoke.
But the far more fascinating battle is between Leela and Astrid.
Astrid doesn't attack Lila with physical force, she attacks her psychologically.
Astrid utilizes terrifying illusion magic, ripping into Leela's mind to extract her deepest traumas.
She physically shifts her own appearance to perfectly mimic the victims of Lila's violent past in Grey London.
She weaponizes Leela's guilt, getting close enough to inject a spike of freezing, agonizing magic directly into Lila's veins.
It appears that the power in dominance philosophy is going to completely crush Lila's mundane defiance.
But Schwab uses this exact moment to argue that human resilience, sheer stubbornness, and the absolute refusal to surrender are a form of magic all their own.
Through excruciating pain and the horrifying psychological assault of her past, Lila relies on her core competency: survival.
She doesn't attempt to out-magic the Queen of White London.
She pulls a knife with her free hand and drives it directly into Astrid's chest.
She proves Kell wrong. The hierarchy of power is disrupted by a mundane girl with a sharp piece of steel.
Lila's action shatters Astrid's concentration, breaking the illusion and shifting the momentum of the entire conflict.
With Astrid falling, Athos is distracted, providing Kell the opening he desperately needs.
Beaten and bloody, Kell realizes a fundamental truth about the elemental nature of the threat they are facing.
You cannot kill magic.
It's a foundational force of the universe, like gravity or time.
You cannot stab it or burn it out of existence. You can only dispel it.
Exactly. You can only sever its connection. Running on the absolute dregs of his power, Kell focuses entirely on the stone. He speaks 2 words of ancient elemental command as anise.
The command of severance.
He casts the magic out, and the fallout is immediate and horrifyingly widespread.
Across the multiverses, the connection is instantly broken. Anyone who had allowed the dark magic in, anyone who was relying on the contagion to fuel their power or their lives, instantly loses that parasitic fuel.
The collateral damage is massive. In Red London, citizens possessed by the corruption simply drop dead in the streets, crumbling to ash or left as empty husks.
It is a deeply Pyrrhic victory. The immediate existential threat of Black London's return is neutralized, but the cost demonstrates that the corrupting fire of absolute power cannot be neatly controlled or negotiated with.
It can only be violently extinguished, leaving profound scars on the societies that attempted to wield it.
The climax leaves the courtyard of White London in ruins. The Dane twins are dead. The stone is inert.
Kell makes the solitary, terrifying journey to drop the artifact back into the sealed ruin of Black London, ensuring it can never be utilized again.
He returns, and he brings Lila back to the soot-stained streets of Grey London.
It is time for them to part ways, but the architecture of their relationship has been permanently altered. They have survived a multiversal war together.
True to the complex nature of the narrative, Schwab does not provide a neatly resolved, simplistic, happily ever after.
The ending is fraught with unresolved tension and precarious new realities. Before Kell leaves Lila in her mundane world, he offers her a gift.
He hands her a small, magical puzzle box and a handful of elemental tokens.
He reveals that the head priest in Red London suspects Lila might harbor a dormant spark of magic within her. He gives her the box for practice.
It is a profoundly hopeful gesture. He isn't just handing her a trinket. He is validating her lifelong, desperate belief that she was meant for a larger, more extraordinary existence.
He is providing her the foundational tools to cultivate her own inherent potential, rather than forcing her to continually steal the power of others to survive.
It is an acknowledgement of her agency and her extraordinary capability.
As they stand in Grey London, delaying the inevitable goodbye, Kell tells this fierce, violent thief who helped him save a universe to stay out of trouble.
Knowing full well she's entirely incapable of doing so.
She smirks, shoves her hands in her pockets, and walks away into the fog. And in that moment, Kell's internal monologue delivers a beautiful, resonant observation about the nature of reality.
He notes that while magic typically bends the world around places-specific doorways or nexuses of power, sometimes, very rarely, the universe bends around people.
Delilah Bard has become a fixed point in the multiverse, a pin in his world.
Kell knows with absolute unshakable certainty that the architecture of their realities will inevitably bend to bring them back into each other's orbit. They will see each other again.
It is a striking conclusion to their immediate journey, but it leaves the broader geopolitical board in a state of extreme fragility.
The balance of Prister Essen has technically been restored, but the foundation is severely cracked.
Kell is permanently, physically tethered to Prince Rai. A fatal accident for the prince means the instantaneous death of the last loyal Antari.
The brutal world of White London has been left with a massive, chaotic power vacuum.
Holland's ultimate fate and the trauma of his subjugation remain unresolved.
The cosmic doors between the universes feel thinner and more fragile than ever before.
And Delilah Bard, the most audaciously ambitious human to ever exist, is now wandering the streets with a magical puzzle box, standing on the precipice of unlocking her own terrifying potential.
The story masterfully resolves the immediate plot regarding the Black Stone while simultaneously expanding the complexity of the world and the characters.
It leaves the audience deeply invested in the long-term consequences of their survival. It is a phenomenal achievement in world building.
It truly is.
And as we conclude this deep dive into the overlapping maps and blood-soaked magic of Kell and Lila's journey, it is worth turning the lens inward.
We've spent this entire time analyzing how different societies and individuals manage power, resources, and ambition.
I want you to consider the magic present in your own reality. Not literal incantations, but your inherent talents, your specific influence, the resources you command, and the voice you possess. How are you choosing to deploy them?
Are you hoarding your capabilities, attempting to aggressively dominate your environment and control the narrative around you, much like the suffocating, dying civilization of White London?
Are you ignoring your own potential, living a muted, compliant existence in the shadows, pretending your influence doesn't exist like the citizens of Grey London?
Or are you genuinely striving for that complex, elusive state of pristare essen?
Are you attempting to navigate the world with reverence for your own power, ensuring that your extraction is matched by your contribution, creating a sustainable symbiosis with the people and the environment around you?
It is a rigorous question of personal accountability and systemic participation. But I want to leave you with one final, deeply philosophical thought experiment drawn directly from Kell's foundational trauma.
We analyze the heavy burdens Kell carries, but remember that his journey began with a complete, intentional erasure.
His memory was wiped by a forbidden rune, leaving a profound void where his formative identity should reside.
Consider the trajectory of your own life. Reflect on the deep traumas, the agonizing mistakes, and the profound pains that have fundamentally shaped your current worldview and your resilience.
If you were presented with that specific magical rune, if you had the ability to carve a scar into your flesh and permanently, flawlessly erase the most agonizing chapter of your history,
Allowing you to move forward completely unburdened by that specific pain, would you choose to use it?
and if you made that choice, if you selectively, surgically removed the suffering that forged your current self, would the person who opens their eyes the next morning still genuinely be you?
That is a staggering question of identity and consequence to carry with you. Thank you for joining us on this extensive deep dive through the parallel cities, the corrupting artifacts, and the extraordinary resilience we've explored today. Keep analyzing the balance of power in your own world. Keep searching for the extraordinary hidden within the mundane. And above all, keep stepping through your own doors and dreaming of stranger worlds.